Hello class, welcome to lab exercise number 1, Foundations of Anatomy and Physiology. So, the purpose of today's lab is to introduce you to some concepts of anatomy and physiology, start using the terminology, investigate organ systems, and practice unit conversions. Each lab you're going to see learning outcomes. This is your list of what you need to be able to do for this lab. So number 1, define the anatomical position. Number 2, use anatomical terminology to compare body regions, orientations, directions, and body planes. Number 3, name the abdominopelvic regions and quadrants on a torso model. Number 4, name the body planes on diagrams and organs. And number 5, name the 11 organ systems, their key functions, and primary organs. So let's talk about the background information. The background information is going to show us the introductory to anatomy and physiology. So before investigating anatomical structures or physiological systems of the body, one must understand the tools and language used to study these objects and topics. Anatomy is the study of the structures of the body. Physiology focuses on the functions of these structures. Together, they help us develop an understanding of how the body works. Anatomy can be studied both macroscopically and microscopically. Macroscopic or gross anatomy studies the large body structures, the ones that you can see with your naked eye. In the lab, we'll investigate the gross anatomy, macroscopic anatomy, by viewing structures depicted on different models, illustrations, physical models, and cadaver models. We're also going to be looking at structures that you cannot see with the naked eye. This type of anatomy is referred to as microscopic anatomy. With this, we will look at the organization of cells under a microscope via slides. Microscopic anatomy can be divided into cytology, which is the study of cells, and histology, which is the study of tissues. Physiology is organized by organ systems based on their general functions. We will study the physiology through virtual laboratory experiments simulating these functions. We will assess how changes in the environment can alter these functions. We will also study dysfunctions in physiological functions, called pathophysiology, or like when something stops working properly. Unlike anatomy, which is static, physiology is dynamic and ever-changing based on the stimuli it receives. Physiological systems work to support homeostasis or a state of equilibrium in the body. All right, so we're going to go through these 4 activities. We're going to start with anatomical position and regional terminology. So activity 1, in anatomy and physiology, whenever we refer to specific areas of the body, we have to have a certain language. So we call that the anatomical position. And as you can see in this little man statue I put here, he is in the anatomical position. He's standing erect, his feet are apart with his toes pointed forward, his face is forward, and his arms are at his sides with his palms facing forward. This is called the anatomical position. So anytime we talk about structures on a patient, if they're left or right, we're going to be doing that from the patient's perspective. So if this patient has a cut on this part of his arm, in the chart note, we're going to explain it as a cut on the patient's left arm. Okay, so this would be right leg, right side of his forehead, right foot, left foot. Okay, it's always by the patient's perspective. Regional anatomy. Regional divides the body into areas of study, or areas to study. It can be divided first into 2 main regions, axial and appendicular. So axial is going to be the trunk area. So it's going to be basically everything down the middle. We have the head, the neck, the chest or the thoracic area, the abdominal area, and the pelvic area. The appendicular region is the arms and the legs. Okay, so the appendages. The body can also be divided into smaller regions based on location. So in this activity, we're going to practice identifying regions of the body using the terms indicated on the models in the anatomical position. All right, instructions. Study Table 1 and Figure 1 to name the body regions and characteristics of the correct anatomical position. Be able to spell each region correctly. Number 2, complete lab activity 1 in the lab exercise 1 worksheet on Blackboard. So after we go through this, you're going to turn this in by going on Blackboard and opening the lab exercise 1 worksheet. And in that worksheet, it's going to be an area where you're going to have to answer questions that are coming from this lab worksheet. And that's how you get the grade for the lab, is by turning in the lab exercise 1 worksheet. All right, so going to this picture, you're going to need to know all of these labeled items. So starting with the cephalic, or this also means head, okay, these you're going to need to be able to show these body parts. So the frontal region, the orbital is by the eye, the nasal is by the nose, buccal is the cheek, oral is mouth, mental is for the chin. Okay, so that's everything on the cephalic or the head area. Cervical means neck. Thoracic is your mid-back area. And in the thoracic area, we have the sternum, your breastbone. Axillary is like where your armpit area is. Mammary is the breast tissue, pecs. And we have the abdominal area, which includes your umbilical area. And we have the pelvic area and the inguinal area. We also have the pubic or the genitalia. Okay, going to the back side of the body, on the cephalic or the head region, we have the otic, which is the ear, and the occipital region, which is the back of the head. Here we have the back of the cervical, or the neck. And then we have the dorsal area, or the back. So we have the scapular region, the vertebral region, the lumbar region, your low back, sacral region, and gluteal region. We also have the perineal, which is between the anus and the external genitalia. Now, the limbs, we have the upper limbs, which we have the acromial area, which is at the top of the deltoid. Brachial means arm. Okay, so you have the front of the arm and the back of the arm. Antecubital is going to be the front of the elbow, where that little crease is. On the back of the elbow, it's the olecranon. And later on, you're going to learn that the olecranon process is back there, one of the bones. Antebrachial is going to be basically your forearm. And then down here in the wrist, we have the carpals. In the hand, you have the palmar region, which is on the palm. Pollex is the thumb, and the digitals are the digits, the fingers. For your lower limbs, we have the coxal region up here kind of around your hip. We have the femoral region, the front and the back of your thigh. The patellar region is your knee, the front of your knee, the anterior portion. The popliteal is on the back of your knee where the crease is. Your lower leg, we have the crural and the sural. So the crural is the front of your lower leg, and the sural is your calf. We have the fibular, which is where your fibula bone is on the lateral side of your leg, and the peroneal is on the lateral side on the back. Then we have the feet, or pedal. We have the tarsal bones. The calcaneal is your heel bone. We have the digital, which is your digits. The plantar region is like the bottom of your foot or your sole of your foot. And hallux is your big toe. Here we have anterior, or also that means ventral. So that means the front of the body. And we have posterior or dorsal, that means the back of the body. So make sure that you're familiar with all of this terminology here. Here's another way to learn those, is to kind of quiz yourself on these. This is going through each one of those terms, abdominal, and giving you a description, located below the ribs and above the hips. Acromial, the point of the shoulder. So if you want to make flashcards, you can do something like that, or you can cover the left side and read this and try to remember the word. Just be very familiar with all these words. All right, activity 2, body cavities and abdominopelvic regions. The body cavities. Within the body spaces or cavities enclosed are your organs. They are separated by layers of membranes that keep the structures in place. Throughout the course, you will learn the names of these different membranes and the organs enclosed in each cavity. The body cavities are divided into dorsal body cavities and ventral body cavities. The dorsal body cavity includes the cavities in the dorsal, or the back of the body, the cranial and the vertebral body cavities. The ventral, or the front body cavities, include the cavities that make up the thoracic and abdominopelvic regions of the body. Abdominopelvic quadrants and abdominopelvic regions. The abdominopelvic cavity is divided into quadrants. There are no distinct boundaries between the abdominal cavity and pelvic cavity. Therefore, they can be referred to as abdominopelvic cavity. The abdominopelvic cavity is organized into 9 regions. All right, so let's look at some pictures here. So these are the structures that you have to be able to identify. But down here, we have the cavities. So, like I said before, dorsal is the back of the body, ventral is the front of the body. Okay, so here, all the orange is on the front, the yellow is on the back. So dorsal and ventral. We have the cranial cavity, which contains your brain. The vertebral cavity contains your spinal cord, and that is the dorsal body cavity. The ventral body cavity is the thoracic and abdominopelvic cavities. So here is the abdominopelvic cavity, and here is the thoracic cavity. So the quadrants, what we're looking for you to be able to know on this is you have to be able to know that this is the left upper quadrant, the right upper quadrant, the right lower quadrant, and the left lower quadrant. So imagine that this middle part is the person's belly button, and you're just going to make a T or a cross on their abdominal area, and then that'll leave you the 4 quadrants. Left upper, right lower, left lower. So that's the abdominal quadrants. The abdomen has 4 quadrants. When you add the pelvis to it, it's the abdominopelvic regions, and those have 9. Okay, so if we make this a little bit bigger here, you'll see up here we have the right hypochondriac, the epigastric, and the left hypochondriac. The umbilical, which is right in the middle, left lumbar and right lumbar. Hypogastric, left iliac and right iliac. So you need to know all these names of the quadrants and what organs are in those quadrants. And you'll be able to see that here on the list. Right in here. Abdominal cavity has the digestive organs. The pelvic cavity contains the urinary bladder, reproductive organs, and rectum, and so on. All right, so make sure that you know all the quadrants and all the abdominopelvic regions, the names. Activity 3, directional terminology and body planes. So the body can be divided or viewed from different planes. Each plane provides a unique perspective of a region in the body. In healthcare, we use these planes to understand the relationship of structure, organs, and tissues in a region. So we have 4 different planes. We have the frontal or coronal plane, which divides the body or organ into anterior and posterior halves. So that would be this one right here. So it's like taking a cross section that makes you have a front section and a back section, or a anterior or posterior half. Okay, sagittal divides the body into left and right. So that would be like this one here. Now we have a left side and a right side. Mid-sagittal just means that it is exactly in the mid section. If you slide that piece of glass over to like the left side, then it would no longer be mid-sagittal. It would just be sagittal. Transverse divides the body into superior and inferior halves, like this one here, superior and inferior halves. So I tried to separate these out so you could see individually, but here's all of them together. All right, and then the anatomical terms. You need to know about these terms. Superior is toward the head, or toward the head end or upper part of the structure. So it's going to be more superior. So on this one, you could say the head is superior to the abdomen. So the head is higher. We don't want to use words like higher or more above or anything like that. We want to use medical terms. So superior to the abdomen. Inferior or caudal, that means lower or inferior. So away from the head. Okay. Anterior or ventral, we talked about that one. This is on the front of the body. Posterior or dorsal, on the back of the body. Medial is toward the midline. Lateral is towards the sides. Okay. Intermediate is between those two. Proximal is higher on the body. Distal is further from the center. Okay, so you got to get the understanding of these words because these are everyday terms that you use in medical. Okay, so if you need to make a card or something to help you remember these, but definitely practice them. This, you don't need to do anything for this, but this is how you should study with those. So on a test or a practical, you could get the muscle man like this, and it would say, A is what to be. This could be a test question. So A is superior to B. Okay? Just like here. K is what to G. K is superior to G. Or D is what to C. Okay, so where's D? I don't even see D on there, so forget that. E is what to F. So E is what to F. So this would be medial and lateral. So E is medial to F. Okay, so use this little muscle man guide to practice that, because this is how the test will look. All right, number 4. The organization of life starts with the simplest structure, atoms, and progresses to more complex structures, organisms. In physiology, the body is divided based on the general functions of organs. The organs are grouped by general function to create organ systems. So in our body, we have 11 organ systems. Here they are all listed: integumentary, skeletal, nervous, muscular, endocrine, cardiovascular, respiratory, urinary, digestive, lymphatic, which is your immune system, and the reproductive system. So you need to study Table 3 and be able to name each of the systems, their general function, and the organs in those systems. Okay, for this lab, you don't need to know all the details of all that because we're going to go through each one individually as we go through the semester, but this is the overview so that you kind of know a little bit about each one. Okay, so be able to identify and spell the following. Okay, these are all the system names. And then what are in those systems. So this chart here gives you the answer. So in the integumentary, the major component organs are your skin, hair, nails, cutaneous sense organs, and glands. And then this is telling you what they do, the function. Okay, so this chart, you need to know that so you kind of have a little bit of an understanding of each one of the systems, what organs it comprises of them, and then what that system's function is. All right, so these last pages, it just kind of gives you a list of structures that you need to be able to identify, but it's the same stuff we've already went over. And that's it for this lab. So once you go through this, go on to Blackboard and open up the worksheet and turn that in before Friday, the due date. And if you have any questions, let me know.